All right, Dylan, how we doing? Welcome back.
Doing great. It's a beautiful Thursday, my guy.
It is Thursday, and we are in the middle of our monthly close, helping out our clients, getting these reports out. I think it'd be really cool to walk through basically our team structure, what we do for businesses, what people get, what they should expect from an outsourced, fractionalized CFO service, and why that's important and how that's structured, what team members we put in place for their businesses, their roles, all that good stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
so we work in a pod structure. So it's basically teams, right? So in each team, we basically have all of the main roles. That basically each person on that team has a different role as far as the finances and the accounting, that they're handling for clients. So what that pod looks like for us is, a staff accountant, a senior accountant, a fractional CFO, tax accountant, and then kind of like a client success rep is what that looks like. And then obviously me and you are kind of overseeing all of those pods right now. And the chief of staff kind of also oversees the pods as well, the client success person. So that's how that works. They all work together. They each have their different roles and what they're doing. And it really provides a handful of different things. Really, we're able to give lots of expertise to the client because there's lots of people with varying skill sets, but also eliminates some risk for us and the client too, because, say one of those team members decides to get another job or maybe they need an extended period of leave. Now we're not in a position where that one person has all of the information and context on the client work. So it allows us to continue our work as normal, and it also allows the client to not have to re-explain all of the stuff that they've already explained to the first accountant. So there's a couple of layers of risk protection. We get some extra expertise there. People are able to really excel in their role, right? If someone's really great at QuickBooks, they can just live in QuickBooks. If someone's really great at forecasting, they can just live, in the CFO forecasting world. So the pods has been great for us, and yeah, I'm sure you have some comments there as well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we've definitely hired for that to put people in their zone of genius. If somebody is much less client facing oriented, but they have skills in terms of forecasting and customizing KPIs for clients' businesses. Let's put them there, right? So our staff accountants, hierarchy goes staff accountant, senior accountant, CFO, CPA, tax strategist on the side, chief of staff on the side. Everybody's working together to basically make sure everything gets done. And there's those multiple layers of review and approval before things go out, because I'm sure maybe some people that are watching have had multiple times where like things are just way off in terms of the reports, and so that's an opportunity for us to make sure we catch those mistakes before they go out to clients. So
Absolutely.
the staff accountant's typically handling the basic foundation, right? The day-to-day stuff, categorizing, putting the transactions in the right buckets, maybe sending out bills, handling payments that needed to get paid, or checking if payments were received,
Yeah.
AR and AP type duties,
Reconciling then.
reconciling, right? Once that is done, once the reconciliations are done on a monthly basis, that goes to our senior accountant. The senior accountant is going through the reports, the reconciliations, reviewing them, making sure things are balanced properly, making sure the balance sheet, the ownership, the equity portions, liabilities, the assets is all looking good, so that ultimately when that the financials are ready to go and for the reports to be discussed and sent out, that's when our CFO will take over and do their final checks, to just make sure everything's clean. Um, they'll do their own analysis, look at comparative changes, anything significant. There's a big jump in things. We want to be able to like look ahead, look around corners for our clients, and like basically extract those actionable insights and then discuss those on calls. And so um, that's all really important, because if we just send out a typical report, which you can easily do in QuickBooks, just generate a P&L, that's all well and good. We take it a step further and craft and tailor custom visual reporting. Um, we want to be able to come to those calls each month and be proactive with, hey, here's the 5 significant things that we're seeing based on your performance. We can do this better. why did these costs go up 30% over the prior month? Are we still looking to increase our ownership distributions? How are we looking with payroll? How are we looking at profitability on a client basis? Those types of things are really helpful for the business owner to get that before the call and also discuss any changes, because that's where a lot of the context lies, is in those conversations. And so, yeah, I mean, all that stuff ties together, and there's it's important to have those multiple layers of approval. And I love the pod structure, and I think being able to fractionalize it to the point where you can get a team of people for the lesser cost of one in-house employee is pretty cool.
For sure.
Yeah, I like the team structure. I like the pod structure. Our clients have been pretty happy with it, and
Well,
yeah,
and the
that's a
team's been
little bit
happy
about.
with it too, for sure. Like, even I was talking to like our CFO yesterday, and he was like, "Yeah, I love working here because it doesn't get stale or boring because he's working with multiple clients in different industries, different types of business owners at different levels of business. So for him, it's always something fresh. If you're just a staff accountant working as an employee at one business, it gets pretty stale and redundant pretty quick. Or if you're only working with maybe 2 or 3 clients, it gets pretty stale. So I know our team enjoys it too, as far as being able to do different types of work across different clients.
Yeah, and I've noticed we've stepped up our priority in terms of helping other team members train each other.
Yeah,
Um,
that's been
that's
fun
really
to
big.
see.
I mean, we had one of our staff counts has been with us for over 2 years now. She started with me since basically day one. Once we brought in a senior accountant, we were actually able to have that senior accountant train the staff accountant on these multiple things and basically help them grow, help increase their level of experience. Um, and there's just a one big cross pollination of skills and expertise that just goes a long way. Like for instance, we're having a training. We're having one of our team members go through a training of Kodai, which is a software that basically automates all the e-commerce, Stripe data, payment platform data that a lot of digital business owners will use. Okay, let's get our team skilled on how we implement it, how we set up these rules, how we connect the softwares to make sure that the invoices get brought over properly, the payments get reconciled out, the fees are taken care of. All that stuff's like, if you're running your business, you don't have time to do it. You probably don't want to do it. So the more we're able to train our team on leveraging tech and these softwares is a huge benefit.
For sure.
And it's such a low cost to where, you know, it's important to have the skill set to know how to do it properly and match that up with the accounting principles. But it just reduces human error. And these softwares have been really great, especially because everybody's using Stripe, everybody's using multiple payment platforms, invoicing software, AP software. Yeah, the cross pollination of all the training has been a really cool thing to see.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. I mean, it's not my first time on a team ever. Obviously, like, we both played a lot of sports through high school and college, but it is my first time, growing a team as far as like business goes. And I would say that's something that's been really rewarding, at least for me, lately, is like, because our team is pretty solid at this point, as far as like with me and you. I mean, we're like 8, 9 people. So it's starting to get somewhat big. And it's been really rewarding to start to see them work collaboratively, train each other, help each other out, like behind the scenes, without me or you ever saying anything, without our chief of staff saying anything. Like, they're going out of their way, to help each other and make sure, you know, everyone's taken care of, which has been cool, because we do have a good mixture of, more experienced senior CFO level people with decade plus experiences. And we have some people that are a little newer, still great accountants, but they all have skills and knowledge to share with each other. And it's been really rewarding to see them start to come out of their shell a little bit and start sharing that expertise with other team members. It's been
Yeah,
cool.
and at the end of the day, you realize like our clients, all of them have people that rely on them. They're providing for their families. They're the people that work for them. They have families, and that's a lot of the work and the proactiveness and the communication goes back to those values and our mission statement, right? You know, exercise that high standard of care for each client because they got families. People are making money for a reason. Let's take care of them. It's not just, a payment that comes in every month and we're doing tasks. There's actual people on the other side of it. So
For
um,
sure.
that's been a really cool part, seeing a lot of our team members interact with clients and just, building those relationships. The more conversations, the more communication, the more context, the better. Um, let's go through dashboards. So like one of the things we've been looking at a lot is realizing a lot of clients have had a need to basically collate and bring in data sources from not just the immediate financial aspects, but other aspects of their business, like their sales, their marketing, their ad spend, um, their close rates, the amount of calls they're booking in. Um, Having that all in one centralized place has become, you know, there's been more demand for that. And I think business owners are realizing like they would love to just be able to have a one-stop shop where they can see at any given time what is like the performance and the health and the activity going on in one centralized place. So I want to at least like briefly touch on that because we've had a decent amount of clients asking about that. And one of the things that I think most firms don't do that we do is like actually taking care of all the financial stuff, not just on a monthly basis. It's like actually weekly. Sometimes it's even daily. And however you're taking care of that, at what frequency will dictate what's showing up on those dashboards.
For sure. Yeah, that's what's somewhat hard about the dashboards on the finance side is because it's only as up to date as you keep your accounting software. And like you said, there's a lot of accounting firms that will only categorize those like on a monthly basis or twice per month basis, where, like you mentioned, we're weekly at a minimum and for some clients, even daily. And that allows them to have more real time insights on the finance side. And like you mentioned with the dashboards, you can really try to make it a centralized thing where you're pulling in sales data, marketing data, like you mentioned, because you know your show up rate and your close rate and your calls booked, your ad spend, your client acquisition cost, all of that really ties into the finance side of things at the end of the day,
Yeah,
and impacts your P&L.
yeah, yeah. And there's been a big push from that from clients, and just having those KPIs not just on like a monthly basis. Like we realized it's a little too static. So being able to like, there's always a time and a place for it, especially those monthly calls where we're going through those custom business KPIs that we tailor to each client. Um, Not doing that just once per month. Like how much can we shorten those feedback loops for business owners so that they know all these KPIs on a daily or weekly basis? That's something that has been, I think, a huge opportunity and also an unfortunate reality from a lot of fractional CFO firms or accounting firms. Um, they're not as high touch and it's just a little bit too static. And I think that's one of the things that we've been realizing is really important to clients is having those faster feedback loops, being able to just take a look at my dashboard and know what's going on across the board.
For sure. And the more touch points, I think that's probably been one of the biggest unlocks me and you have had in the last month, month and a half is because when you're trying to grow business, at first you're kind of getting a feeling it's like, okay, like how can I get further and further away from this? How can I delegate and put multiple layers between myself and, the work and client calls and team calls and whatever else. But we've definitely realized in the last month or two and have seen it that the more calls you actually have with your clients and your team members, the better they perform and the more satisfied they are generally. So it's kind of that balance of like engaging versus escaping a little bit. Your job as the owner is to engage. And, our clients have been very satisfied with us moving from, sending Loom videos of their financials to actually doing a monthly CFO call with them every single month. And then a second follow-up call with our chief of staff. So really moving to 2 calls a month with every single client that's, paying for that piece of service has been a huge bump. And then even with our team, our team meets with their chief of staff every single Monday. There's 2 meetings. And then on Wednesday, we have a full team meeting. And then you meet with the chief of staff 2-3 times a week, just one-on-one. And we've definitely seen an increase in productivity, overall satisfaction, both on the client side and the team side, just by having those extra touch points. People think, oh, I'm going to be bugging my client, but honestly, clients really appreciate that sort of thing,
Yeah,
regardless of the service you
they're
provide.
paying us for our expertise and they just want us to tell them, right? I think that was early on in the early days, I think that was something we needed to improve on, which was like not just asking, hey, if you have any questions, let us know. It's like, let's make those calls required and let's show up to those calls with insights in hand, and not just wait for a client to be like, so what should I do for this? It's like, no, let's actually dig through that stuff beforehand
Yeah.
and make it required because that's what they're asking for. And the more we can make those required, I'm glad we did. Not only did like client satisfaction increase immediately, but it's also just it's gonna take less time out of their day to go and figure out, when I could maybe give a call. It's like, no, show up, give us a date, we'll make that recurring each month, and we'll get after it
Yeah.
versus leaving it up in the open.
Well, and it allows us to provide a better service too because so much nuance is revealed on those calls, right? Like you can only get so much through Slack, right? But like actually getting on a call and having our CFO sit there with the business owner is going to open up way more about what's going on personally, what's going on in the business, what the short term goals are, what they're trying to do, and when we gather that nuance, it allows us to go back, on the finance side of things and wheel and deal to help them accomplish that goal. So it's just a win on both sides because they're getting more value, we're providing a better service, more satisfaction on both ends. It's really just double triple win for everybody by doing that. And regardless of your service, like you'll see the same thing happen.
Yeah. Totally.
Do you want to talk a little bit? I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit, how we talked about more touch points with not only the clients, but also the team. I think we have a pretty solid meeting structure. I was asking our senior accountant, last month, like, hey, you've probably been on a lot of team meetings. Like, how do we do? And she was like, no, our team meetings are awesome. So maybe touch a little bit on how we go about our team meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously like to open it up light, just check in with everybody, ask how everybody's doing, a little chit chat, and bring to the table like a win. I think there's so much moving, there's so many moving pieces on a day to day basis that we oftentimes don't actually celebrate the wins, even the small ones. Um, so I like to start that out by having our team go through around the room and just say like, what was a win? Was there any wins that you delivered to your client that they were happy about, or it doesn't even have to be work related? So we start with that. That's always good. Um, and and then really like the purpose of those meetings for us is not to try to solve every single problem. If there's a whole lot of things that we need to do this week or today, but just surface them. We don't have to go and solve them all. We can take that offline, but at least let's open up the conversation to where if there are things that are needing to be surfaced, the whole team is able to hear that because there might be somebody a part of that process that is either the bottleneck for something or can solve that right then and there that the other team member who was struggling didn't realize there's a solution for it. So getting the communication across the board is really helpful. We don't need to solve every single thing that goes on, but just a quick pulse on what's going on, any bottlenecks, is there anything critical that needs to be addressed right now? Otherwise, get a list of all those things and take it offline for our chief of staff to just basically have, ammo and context to be able to follow up and make sure these things get done.
Yeah,
So
totally.
that helps from anything, falling through the cracks, and just keeps our team refocused on the priorities. And we do those on Wednesdays so that we can accelerate through the end of the week and not just find out things that should have been done this week on Friday, end of day.
Yeah, and a short way of putting it would be like we're looking for wins and roadblocks. Hey, what are your wins? What's stopping you? What are you running into that's giving you trouble? Like you said, we surface it, and everybody has expertise in different stuff, and we kind of just talk through how to maybe solve it if particular team members stuck on something. It also allows us to see maybe gaps in the process too. Like if there's a certain gap in the process for a certain client on a certain piece of the service, it's like, okay, maybe we need to have this person jump in here for this specific client on this specific task because there's a gap in the current people that are doing it. For example, it kind of opens that up to us too.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I mean, yesterday, you remember we were clients, sometimes clients need to be taught. And we've had times where we've closed the books on prior months. Basically any prior month activity that's like reconciled and done is not supposed to be touched, right? So we've had clients in the past go in and change an invoice from like 3 or 4 months ago. That's going to mess things up. It's going to put things out of balance, and there's a proper way to do it. So things like that, where we can realize, hey, maybe we should have an SOP that goes out, a message that goes out to each client as part of the onboarding process to say, hey, if you have changes that need to be made in the books from prior months that are already closed and reports are issued for them, either let us know, or here's how you can properly make that change if you want to, or just send us a message. There's also the option of actually like locking the books for prior months in QuickBooks.
Mhm.
So there's that opportunity to do that. But again, those conversations and those meetings help surface those things for us to be able to figure out there's a hole in our process, because as you grow, things are constantly breaking. You got to reiterate, relaunch the process, create a new one, break ones down that are broken, and fix them. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the other piece for our meetings is, it's a culture thing too. Like, we're a fully remote team. Me and Alex are pretty much the only ones that have met in person ever, besides one other person that I knew prior. So a lot of those meetings, it really is kind of culture building. Like, the first 10 minutes were really just asking people about their personal lives and about their day, and how they're doing, and joking around with each other a little bit. So it's definitely, those calls for us, honestly, probably go 20 to 30 minutes longer than they really need to. But we're okay with it because it's
Yeah,
really kind of a culture building hour in a sense as well.
for sure. Yeah, the more you can pour into your teams, the better. Um, it's like what I was saying earlier. Like every one of our team members have their own uh, their own lives, their own families, their own, they're putting money on their table. Like it's important to pour into them.
For sure.
Last thing I just wanted to briefly, I think, mention was like, so, and this isn't even to get political, but there are certain changes that were most likely going to take place if the Democrats won or the Republicans won. And with the election that was on Tuesday, right? Was it Monday or
Yeah.
Tuesday?
It's
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Um,
Late Tuesday night.
One of the things that I think is notable is because Trump did win, there was the risk of the corporate tax rate going up, right? So that is a net positive for business, because that'll probably stay at around 21%, if not drop even further. Um, the qualified business deduction, that's going to be still in play. So it's basically just like a 20% haircut right off the top that phases out. That's going to help you reduce an extra like 20% basically on your taxes. If it's applicable, if you're a
Mhm.
super high earner, that'll phase out. Um, but just generally, like the theme seems to be the next 4 years is basically a better time to start and grow a business. I won't get into the politics of it, but like uh, there is more of a business friendly environment, I think, that will take place on because of the Republicans winning versus the Democrats winning, generally around taxes.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, I feel like I've seen him talk about maybe even trying to reduce the corporate tax rate more to like 15% if your services or goods are produced in the United States. And if you're producing the goods or services outside the United States, that's where the tax rate would be a little higher for that
yeah,
business.
and
That's kind of what I've heard him talk about a little bit.
I could see that happening. There's a reason why like Apple was holding a ton of money out in Ireland offshore, because they didn't want to bring that in and have the repatriation tax and pay a bunch of tax on it. Trump basically in his first term lowered that, um, so that incentivized more cash that was held offshore to come in and
Hmm.
join the whole money supply and add to the revenues, the tax revenues for the government. Those are the types of things that the outlook and the stance on tax policy generally seems to be around with Trump going into the White House. I know unrealized capital gains tax, that was a thing that I don't think that would have ever even happened, but
But it was brought up by them.
it was
Yeah.
brought up. You can definitely pretty much put that one to bed. So like if you made 30% on your Tesla stock, but you haven't sold out of your shares and brought the money in, uh, that that unrealized gain portion of that is now just 100% not going to be taxed. It's only going to be taxed until you sell and close out your positions.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, generally it seems to be like a better environment for small businesses to be able to start and grow a business. It's generally a little bit more tax friendly. Um, Tariffs is a whole nother animal I don't even have enough experience on, but I think there's a whole lot of different arguments to be made there. But
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy on the Joe Rogan podcast. Like, he kind of floated the idea of just like zero income tax and just completely replacing it with tariffs,
you know,
which I don't know if it'll ever go that far within his 4 years, but who knows?
we actually had, I think, 0% income tax for a while. It was like,
Yeah, it was in like the late 1800s.
yeah, way long ago, long ago. We were making all of our money off tariffs. It was
Yeah, and that president got assassinated.
I think it was actually it was a lot of it was like the Marshall Plan. We basically were helping build up other countries, like Europe, and we were just tariffing the crap out of them, and like that was how we made our money as a
Hmm.
as a government.
Yeah, I
Um,
can't remember which president it was off the top of my head, but I know he was like the tariff king, and there was no income tax, and he got assassinated.
yeah, yeah. I'm not even gonna touch that one. Conversation for another
Yeah,
time.
but yeah, we'll see. But generally, like you said, like the tax environment is going to definitely improve
Yeah,
with him in there.
individual income tax rates will remain
Child tax
relatively the
credit.
same. They might even drop in 2025. So yeah, I mean, if you're a small business and you're just getting started, or you've been getting taxed to oblivion, if you're a high earner, generally right now and for Trump's next term is going to be a little bit more tax friendly, which is
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of changes are actually able to be made. But also, I think business in general and the economy in general is going to see a boost just purely off of morale and faith and belief. Like just him getting elected, at least the Republican side, you know, obviously America voted for him, but just in general, it seems there's kind of a buzz in the air a little bit where people are
yeah.
just generally excited about the future of the economy and the tax situation to where you might see an improvement in the economy, not even off of policy, but just off of just the general morale of the nation. I could see that happening.
I hope so. I mean, it was definitely a mandate. If you haven't ever seen a mandate election, that was one. That was one of them. Where there's a significant lead in the popular vote, electoral college, down ballot elections, Senate and the House, clean sweep. So the American people spoke. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, obviously, there's a whole bunch of vitriol and partisanship, and hopefully, we can just all come together.
Yeah, and I'm not, you know, I don't hate Dave Ramsey, like, but I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a fan of Dave Ramsey. Like, I'm kind of in the middle. I think he has great advice for most of the American people. But one of my favorite things I've ever heard Dave Ramsey say is, "What's happening in your house is much more important than what's happening in the White House." I really, really like that. So,
Yeah,
if you're kind of all up in arms about it, honestly, you should still be focusing on the impact you can have in your own home and in your own life and business
yeah.
overall.
All the kitchen table issues. I mean, those were the biggest things. Um, Economy being, I think, the highest priority. All right, man. Well, this is cool. Good talking to you. We'll keep doing these each week. If you guys have any questions, shoot them in the comments. If you want us to talk about anything, shoot them in the comments, and we'll get those back to you.
Absolutely. Nice little 30-minute banger. Hope you enjoyed it. Let us know if you have questions and have a beautiful week.
All right, guys.